Good evening, everyone. We are the Group 4, and tonight we are going to discuss the best practices for managing virtual teams and meetings. The members are Fuentes Angel, Serenio John Renford, Del Pozo Teresiana Melody, De Costo Janine Maika, Mandal Jenny Lourdes, Villahermosa Shana Laika, and yours truly. So, as the world navigates the coronavirus pandemic, the global workforce has set up shop to work from home. With a new emphasis, teams need a strategy for communicating digitally, and leaders must adapt in order to effectively manage their people and meetings remotely. So, at the end of this discussion, the viewers will be able to develop effective communication strategies to ensure clarity and understanding among virtual team members, foster a collaborative virtual environment by implementing tools and practices that encourage teamwork and shared goals, implement time management techniques and tools to enhance productivity within virtual teams, and promote cultural awareness and sensitivity to accommodate diverse perspectives within virtual teams. So, there are tips for managing virtual teams and meetings which are helpful for virtual teams and meeting success.
So good evening, everyone. I will be your first speaker for tonight, and I will be sharing 3 tips for managing virtual teams. I will be sharing the first 2 tips for managing virtual teams. So first, we have the use technology to communicate in real time and train and develop your people. So the more often team members meet face to face through real-time technologies, the higher their levels of success. That's because tools like video conferencing allow for members to interpret nonverbal communication like hand gestures, facial expressions, and body postures. As a result, communication feels more familiar and natural. It means that leveraging communication tools like video conferencing and online collaboration platforms can enhance real-time interactions among team members. Additionally, incorporating e-learning platforms and virtual training modules can be effective for training and developing your workforce rather. So next slide please. So next we have the overcome time zone differences. This indicates that the boundary between personal and professional life becomes unclear during a global crisis, posing a risk of burnout for individuals working from home due to extended work hours and difficulty disconnecting from work responsibilities. So as we all know, virtual teams can be consist of members from a different geographical area. Therefore, members have different is under different time zones. So to overcome time zone differences, you can schedule meetings using tools that display multiple time zones. Consider using universal time. Additionally, being flexible and understanding of others' time constraint can help facilitate collaboration across different time zones. So this is especially a concern during a time of global crisis when people working from home experience blurred boundaries between personal and professional obligations. Be aware that because of the long work hours, your people may be on a path to burn out as they find it hard to separate from from turn off work or from turn off work. So this second tip for managing virtual teams is protecting members from being burned out. Overcoming time zone differences means that it encourages virtual teams to complete their tasks during the standard working hours. And second, utilizing the schedule tools and guidelines to minimize early morning or late night meetings, specifying availability on weekends and local holidays for global teams. Also, we have this provide support for recovery practices, set teams norms, and consider in-person meetings for dispersed teams during essential project stages to enhance commitment. And lastly, this tip encourages or emphasizes and acknowledge achievements of the teams as a way of reinforcement to be more committed in the work. So that would be all for the first two tips for managing virtual teams.
So now, the third tip is to consider team members' other commitments. So in this tip, dapat i-consider na to ato ang so employees can only be stretched so far, and the more teams they're involved with, the less time they're able to deviate to each project. So this means that the more na ang atoang members kay involved in many teams, kay kanang maglisod sila og kaning tunga sa ilahang time, kay because natunga-tunga na siya because of the team. So we need to ensure that members only have kanang gamay ra nga teams ang iyahang na involved. Next please. So there are steps to ensure that your members are engaged. The first one is to ensure teams are of optimal size. Our research has found that means you should aim for 5 to 9 members. So kaning murag ang accepted ra jud niya nga members, every team is 5 to 9. So we need to ensure sad nga ato ang teams kay ma-manage ra gani nato nga makaya ra nato, dili kay siya dako kayo nga group nga murag dili nato kaya ma-manage. Next. So the second one is be aware of the number of teams on which members simultaneously work. So not surprisingly, the more teams someone is on, the less effective they are. So as what I've said earlier, the more teams nga ang members giapilan, mas dili sila effective kay ilahang time matunga and dili sila maka-focus. Next one, Ling. So the third one is to determine whether team members are core or peripheral. Core team members are key contributors who are highly involved and stay involved over a longer time. Peripheral team members support the team's work but may be involved in a lesser way or for a shorter time. At the beginning of a project, explain each team member's role and expected contribution. So, i-determine mo sila if kana ba nga member is a peripheral member or a core member. So, before pa lang ka muhatag og mga positions nila or mga task, kay you need to kanang imo na silang i-inform about their roles and unsa imong mga expectations nga ma-contribute each members. The last one is to avoid overloading high performers with too many team assignments. Limit the roles they play, particularly if they're core team members, to prevent them from becoming overwhelmed and burning out. So, dapat ang mga task na imong ihatag kay balance siya, dili siya ang members kay dili ma-overwhelmed na dili na siya maka-function og tarong kay because they have a lot to do. Daghan kay sila kanang task nga naka-assign. So, especially those mga members nga daghan kay mga contribute sa team or ang mga core members.
Next, we have management checklist for designing and supporting virtual teams. Next slide, please. First, we have clearly articulate vision and corporate objectives to all employees. This is even more important in times of crisis.
So clearly articulating the vision allows for effective decision making within virtual teams. When team members are aware of the overarching goals, they can make autonomous decisions that align with those objectives without constant supervision or micromanagement from managers. Next, please. Next is select team members based on individual talents and abilities, including technical competence and interpersonal skills. So each member brings a unique set of skills to the table, which can greatly contribute to achieving the team's goals. So the first criterion for this is to have a technical competence. Virtual teams heavily rely on technology for communication and collaboration. Therefore, it is essential to choose individuals who possess the necessary technical skills to effectively navigate through various digital platforms and tools. So, equally important is also the interpersonal skills, in which teams should be able to clearly articulate their ideas and thoughts through written communication channels such as emails or instant messaging platforms. And lastly, team members should possess active listening skills to understand each other's perspectives without non-verbal cues. Next we have, once you've established teams, instruct team leads to clearly define the team's mission and purpose so that all team members are on the same page. So a defined mission and purpose help in measuring progress and evaluating performance. Team leaders can set specific targets based on the team's objectives and track their accomplishment over time. So this allows for timely feedback and adjustment if necessary. A clear mission and purpose foster collaboration and teamwork. Next slide, please. Next is establish processes for sharing information, making decisions, and resolving miscommunications or potential conflicts. So, establishing a clear communication channels is vital. Managers should encourage team members to use technology platforms that facilitate real-time communication, such as video conferencing or instant messaging. Next is decision making. Processes must be clearly defined. So managers should establish guidelines on how decisions will be made within the team and communicate with them effectively. Also, miscommunications are bound to happen in virtual teams due to the absence of nonverbal cues. To mitigate these issues, managers should encourage team members to ask clarifying questions when needed and provide regular feedback on their communication skills. And lastly, conflicts may arise within virtual teams due to the cultural differences or misunderstandings. Managers should establish protocols for conflict resolution that promote open dialogue and respect among team members.
Okay, now for the next checklist, if possible, set up a communication channel for process questions or discussions that separate from the task-related communications. For example, you can create a group chat in Messenger used only for inquiries. This allows team members to focus on task-related communications in one space and address process-related queries in another, promoting organizational clarity and efficiency. For the next one, clearly define and communicate the tools teams have for communicating with one another on a regular basis. Now, team members should be aware of and have access to designated communication tools such as messaging apps, collaboration platforms, and scheduled meetings. Clearly communicating the purpose of each tool enables us to streamline regular interactions and foster effective team communication. Now for the next one, ensure team members have clear goals and recommend potential approaches to perform work. Now, this checklist can guide team members in performing their work effectively and achieving the desired outcome. And for the last one, recognize individual and team efforts through rewards and other performance incentives. Now, acknowledging and rewarding both individual team efforts is shown to boost motivation and performance of the team members.
Here we have the best practices for leading and managing virtual team meetings. So we have 7 items on the list. So the first on the list is to create a detailed agenda and set it out ahead of time so people know what to expect and come prepared. As the initiator of the meeting, it is crucial for you to provide a detailed plan on what would happen in the meeting in order to keep the flow organized. The attendees must also be notified beforehand so that they would be aware of the process of the meeting and have the time to prepare for themselves. So, second on the list is to list the names of attendees at the start of the meeting so everyone is reminded of us there. So, this is very common in our previous online classes wherein the instructor conducts a roll call of the attendees. So, this one helps everyone get informed of the presence as well as the absence of the attendees of the virtual meeting. Third is to address attendees by name when verbally calling or verbally interacting with participants and provide opportunities for all attendees to contribute. Now, you have to clearly and appropriately address the participant that you're conversing with so that he or she will know that you're referring to them. You must also allow others to speak or provide their ideas rather, to create a sense of openness and collaborative environment for everyone. Proceeding to the fourth practice, stay on task in order to keep the group engaged and to keep people away from the temptation to multitask. You must also keep your momentum in the midst of the meeting and make your participants interested on the topic to keep them engaged, or else they will resort to the convenience of multitasking. Now, once they decide to do something else simultaneously, their focus will be divided and the meeting will become one sided, which is not what we're aiming for.
And the fifth one, provide brief recaps as you move through the agenda, restating what the collective input is before you move into the next item. So, of course, after you discuss everything or discuss all the agendas, you have to restate the input that you had discussed before moving on to the next item in order for your kanang co-teams nga makahibaw sila or kanang na sila if ever na sila yung mga clarifications ma-refresh ilahang mind kay of course sa kadaghang mga information kay murag ma-overloaded na kay sila, so we need to recap mag-provide ta og brief recaps kung unsang atoang na-tackle before moving on to the next item. The next one is seek feedback and provide via all communication channels. So of course, in an organization or in any meetings, we have to seek feedback and so that kanang ma-inform ang ma-inform ta all of us or everyone kay kanang makahibaw ta kung unsang ato ang need nga enhance or mga suggestions sa ato ang mga co-teams. And the last one, send out action items in a meeting recap to all participants after the meeting to reiterate what was decided upon and what the next steps are. So we need to send out action items in a meeting recap. So all of the information, mura na siya og kanang for example, in an organization, naatay mga matako, mga discussions, of course, for example, ang secretary ana kay maghimo og minutes. So kana mga minutes sa inyo or minutes sa inyong agenda kay kinahanglan siya i-send out sa mga participants para ma-aware sila og kanang makahibaw pud sila if ever malimtan nila kung unsa to mga agenda sa inyong meeting kay lahat tong kanang ma-recheck pinaagi dito sa inyong gi-send out nga minutes or katong recap ninyo sa kung sa inyong mga na-decidean and what are the next steps are nga you are going to kanang take.
So, this is the last topic sa among presentation. Okay, the 3 keys to virtual meeting success. Next slide, please. So first, everyone participating feels the agenda couldn't be addressed without the meeting. So here, you should be always prepared, and you know that preparation is the key to optimize virtual meetings. And so sa first one pa lang, you should choose the right video conferencing tool, and you have to make sure that all participants have the right video conferencing tools like internet, gadgets, and whatever it is. So you should set first a schedule, and at the same time structure your meeting, having a good agenda, state a clear objectives, coordinate discussions that help to optimize the topic. So next, please. So everyone necessary is fully present. So here you should have a mandatory video on policy and acknowledge everyone in a meeting. So you should acknowledge their presence so that ma-motivate sila nga ay mo apil jud ay kuan kanang meeting. As always kay it's not for my own good but for the others as well. Kay in a meeting there is an exchanging of information baya, and in a meeting you should have to use different tools like graphs, maps, slides, and pictures, and also tell relevant stories, even testimonies, and ask questions to get and ask their perspective as well to the certain topics so that every information, every challenges will be addressed in that specific meeting. And you should keep the ball rolling, which means you have to deliver your meeting in an organization. You should be active, not monotonous in a such way nga maboringan ang imong mga members. And last but not the least is you have to deliver your words, and you should in a moderate way and do not talk too fast and too slow. Just kanang average lang on how you kanang communicate gani para ang mga audience kanang makatuhop sila sa idea o makapaminaw sa tarong based sa imuhang o deliver sa words. Kaya maka-affect man ang delivery sa imuhang pagsulti. So next slide please is agreement has been achieved on what will accomplish and the kinds of conversation will use to get the results. So here in the last slide, it also talks about the accomplishment of conversation. You know that if there's a good communication, we can create a healthier bond, and also ang atong knowledge and atong knowledge level is high. It's because there is agreement, there is an agenda. Ang agenda ang atong gikuan og atong outline. So kanang subtopic sa agenda dira ta maka-agree nga mo ni buhaton mo ni kuan, dira ka maka-share sa imong feedback, and also the rest of the team members. The more feedback, the more information, the better it is, and the outcome or the result is high and it's successful siya, and everyone can benefit sa ilahang kuan meeting. Dili lang sa kanang ilang mga knowledge, maka-benefit sila sa ilahang interpersonal skills, ma-optimize lag ma-maximize para ma-enhance. So our next slide please. So reminder for today, success in managing virtual teams and meetings lies in embracing clear communication, fostering a culture of trust, and leveraging technology to create a seamless collaboration experience.
So before we end our webinar today or our discussion, so we need to recap everything that we have discussed. The best practices for managing virtual teams and meetings. We have 3 tips for managing virtual teams, such as use technology to communicate in your real time and to train and develop your people. Overcome time zone differences and consider team members' other commitments. And the management checklists for designing and supporting virtual teams. So clearly articulate the vision and corporate objectives to all employees. Select team members based on individual talents and abilities. Once you've established teams, instruct team leads to clearly define the team's mission and purpose. Establish processes for sharing information. If possible, set up communication channel for process questions or discussions. Clearly define and communicate the tools teams have for communicating. Ensure team members have clear goals and recognize individual and team efforts. Now, there are also best practices for leading and managing virtual team meetings. The first one is to create a detailed agenda. Second, list the names of attendees. Third, address attendees by name. Fourth, stay on task. Number 5, provide brief recaps and seek feedback, and also send out action items. And there, the leading more mindful virtual meetings, the 3 keys to virtual meeting success is everyone participating feels the agenda couldn't be addressed without the meeting. Second, everyone necessary is fully present. Third, agreement has been achieved on what will accomplish and the kinds of conversations we'll use to get results. So we need to consider these tips for us to achieve success in virtual meetings and kanang mga agenda nato through online. So thank you so much for your presence, everyone.